TCI is brought to you by Spendthrift Farms' emerging top sire Into Mischief, sire of Kentucky Derby contenders Practical Joke and One Liner. Look for his 10 2-year-olds selling next week at Fasig-Tipton Gulfstream.
Welcome back to TCI, your inside track to the Triple Crown. Alongside Joel Cunningham, I'm John Siegel. Well, Joel, we have one race to recap. It was the last of the 10-point races. Of course, I'm talking about the Southwest Stakes run at Oaklawn Park on Monday. Yeah. I know that the TCI Top 10 was not affected by this race, but I would like to go back and watch the race. You tell me what you think of One Liner's performance.
Yeah, let's look at the stretch run here, and you see uncontested here, your big-time favorite. He completely folds up shop, John. He's got one way to go. Almost makes you wonder if there's breathing issues there. Beautiful colt, but he folds up there, and you see a game performance here, really by your runner-up Petrov, but I think the class of the race clearly, you know, opening weekend Saratoga maiden winner, One Liner, had some issues there, had to go the shelf. They brought him back at Gulfstream, an allowance race. He was very impressive from off the pace at Gulfstream. Comes back in here first time around, 2 turns, John. I do think speed was playing at Oaklawn Park Monday. I mean, it was a funny type track. I mean, you start evaluating some individual performances on the card in there. I do think you wanted to, you know, show speed. I think horses that maybe had that closing style, like looking at Lee, I think we're up against it in this race. So I do believe that maybe it was a good trip for One Liner, and he's such a class horse. He was able to get a middle distance of 1 mile and a 16th here, and they go fast. I mean, they got a 102 buyer, so it makes you also wonder, based on how fast the track is that a legitimate speed figure? I mean, a 102 is the fastest buyer so far in 2017 by a 3-year-old, really by far. I think Unique Bella maybe has a 99, so nobody else has a triple-digit buyer right now. So big-time performance here. You would say, okay, he was successful around 2 turns. Can he be a Derby colt? I think he has some quality, but again, as the distances get further, we'll see what he's really made of, because I still think he has more of a middle distance type pedigree, and I really question his ability getting a classic distance, getting 1.25 miles on the first Saturday in May. So we're going to watch out very closely on One Liner. We like his quality, still not convinced he's a Derby type right now. And I'll say this too, Gun Runner ran great earlier in the day. He got an easy lead, and that's what he wants to do, and the speed was holding. He got a 110 buyer. I didn't think that was a 110 buyer type performance. I mean, won by 5 lengths over a pretty weak group, even though it's a breathtaking win, but he'd never run 110 in his life. And the only reason I bring that up, John, is when I look at One Liner's 102 buyer, and I see Gun Runner run a 110 and some other performances on the card, I question that buyer and in terms of significance. A lot of people are going to see 102 first 2-turn effort. Sure. And again, they're going to say, okay, this horse has arrived, he's a Derby colt. But again, I question that track being fast. I don't question One Liner's quality, I question his classic ability.
All right, well, you know, the times are changing a little bit. You know, we mentioned that the TCI Top 10 will not be affected after this performance here by One Liner. Right. But the cool thing about what we're seeing now is we're, with the internet, able to watch these horses work. I'd like to look at the TCI Top 10. You tell me how some of our horses are working. I know Gormley had a really impressive work. There's a couple of horses that have worked this week that you actually can see on XBTV and some places like that. Take me to TCI Top 10. Let me know how these contenders are working.
I think that's a very good point, John. You know, usually we're sitting here in Lexington, we're tied into some of these connections, but really we're evaluating racing performances. But now with XBTV, more works widespread on the internet, the video, we're able to find horses like Arrogate and love him in the Breeders' Cup Classic. We're able to find horses like Champagne Room, who paid a big price in the juvenile fillies last year. So I think it's worth talking about some of these works we're able to find on XBTV of some of these Derby colts and how their training and developing. And I think it's really relevant when you look at my number 1, American Anthem, a colt that is really not a great workhorse in the morning. His last 2 works have been rather workmanlike. You know, he's not been really willing to pull away from a stablemate. They've been modest times. His gallop outs have been very mediocre, in my opinion. So American Anthem, based on his working, you would not get really excited about him, particularly as a number 1 type colt. But again, I know he's not that great of a workhorse, and he's 5 and 4 weeks out in these last 2 works from, you know, his next race probably in the San Felipe. So I think they'll get a little more serious with him, but he's not a colt that'll wow you in the morning so far. Mastery is our number 3 horse. His last work for Bob Baffert, I think 3/4 and 112 was just a dominant type work. He was able to put his stablemate away, big gallop out, beautiful way of going. He's a colt that you can tell why he's number 1 in Bob Baffert's barn right now, because he is one that really turns heads in the morning time. And looking at some other ones here, Classic Empire. Haven't seen a work from him, but again, concerned that he was able to lose weight, you know, with that foot injury and not come right out of it. I think you got to be a little concerned now, Classic Empire, missing the Fountain of Youth Stakes. We're going to have to really keep our close eye on him. I'll be interested to see what his next work looks like. Gormley, very good workmanlike, 47 and change half mile in his most recent work, was able to put away his stablemate pretty comfortably. Big gallop out for Gormley, so I like the way Gormley's doing right now. He's doing well. Motown, we're going to talk about him shortly this weekend. And really, those are the ones of note, John, in my opinion, when I look at the top 10. Not any changes this week, but we did have some significant works, and I think it's worth evaluating.
Yeah, and the other thing, too, with social media, like I love watching Graham Motion had a video of Irish War Cry, and just seeing him in the stall. I mean, it helps so much to see mentally where these horses are. That horse looks like he's feeling good. He seems like a happy horse. It's important. Everything's got to be going right as you're leading into the Kentucky Derby.
And that's important with Irish War Cry, because even though I don't think he was all out in his last race, they eased him up the final, 80, 90 yards or whatever in that race. He ran by far his fastest race to date in his first start around 2 turns. So how will he react off of that? Is there room for improvement still? Or are we looking for a bounce next time out? Because we've seen a lot of those Holy Bulls where those horses go by the wayside with the big performance. So I think it's good to see those type things, and we're able to see that now with all the technology and information out there.
All right, we have one race to talk about this weekend. It's starting to get serious now. We see the points increase. Let's talk about the Risen Star at the fairgrounds. And we see Motown in there, your number 7 horse, but we're also a horse named Cool Arrow. I think he scratched out of the Southwest to go into the Risen Star. Tell me, what do you think about these horses?
We got stung last week because we shot the show, and because the Southwest Stakes was on Monday, President's Day, they had not drawn. And so we were working off of probables, and we leave one liner out because they decided to enter at the last moment, and he wins the race. Well, wasn't the case with the Risen Star. They drew this race extremely early, actually too early, in my opinion, because you hope you get all 14 into the gate now with any defections, but you love seeing a full field in here, John. And what I like about this race, I think it's a very good race because not only is it a full field of 14, but you get a combination of exciting horses with 2-year-old form making their 3-year-old debuts, like a Motown, that John Velasquez obviously has confidence in to come and ride him at fairgrounds. He's been working well at Palm Meadows for Tony Dutrow, horse that obviously developed as a 2-year-old. We liked his eye-catching maiden race on Travers Day. I followed him from there when he was second to Reckling. Broke his maiden next time out at a mile, went a mile and 1/8, and the Remsen won very comfortably there. So we know distance is not an issue with him. This mile and 16th race, shipping into fairgrounds can be a little difficult. I'm interested to see if he is able to take that step forward as a 3-year-old. And I don't think he has to win this race because I think it is a tall task to ship in, face a full field at fairgrounds. We'll see what kind of trip he gets in here. But I'm very interested to see how he runs because, remember, Coolmore bought into this colt. They've been looking to buy into a son of Uncle Mo really from the last 2 3-year-old crops. They didn't buy one last year. They bought into this colt because they like his potential that much. So I think that's worth noting from an insider standpoint that they think he has a ton of ability.
All right, and tell me a little bit about Cool Arrow. What do you think about this horse? Did he have a shot in there, or you think he's going to do well in the Risen Star?
I tell you what, Joe Sharp and his owner, Brad Grady, have 2 horses in the race. And I actually like Gervin more than I do Cool Arrow in here. I mean, if you're looking at 2 local horses that are maybe on the rise, I mean, we talked about what intrigues me about this field. I look at the 1 horse, Gervin, I look at the 3 horse, Local Hero. Both colts that have shown a ton of ability at fairgrounds. Gervin had the best maiden win at fairgrounds this meet, in my opinion. They stretched him out last time on the grass, and he ran into an undefeated colt, Cowboy Culture, who was able to run him down there. But I love the way he finished. I mean, it's sitting a turf horse. Right. To me, he just proved he wants 2 turns. He has that inside stalking style, and he's such a game colt. You watch both of Gervin's performances. He pins those ears, and he lays it down the final 16th of a mile. So, again, he's taking a big step up, but I think he has some quality. Gervin, to me, is an outsider in here. Local Hero, my concern about him is I think he has one way to go. He's going to be a speed horse, so if it's a soft pace and he's on the lead, I think he can take him a long way for Steve Asmussen. But I think, you mentioned Cool Arrow in a 14-horse field. I think there'll be enough speed. I think Gervin will be close enough to stalk him in here. And really, the closers I'd be a little nervous about because it's such a big field. And again, you don't know how that pace is going to be. You have a horse like Guess Sweet. It's going to probably be your favorite in here, John. Has not run fast yet, but is on a win streak. To me, I don't like him as much in this race. I think he's a play against. He's a colt that has to step up for me and run well right now while he's catching maybe a Motown off the bench. If he doesn't win this weekend, I just don't know that he'll ever make our TCI top 10 or be validated as a top Kentucky Derby colt. But what a race. I mean, you have So Conflated coming in from the West Coast. He unluckily drew the 14. Oh, he's another closer. Saw his work on XBTV. Very workmanlike. I don't think he's going to I don't think he has a ton of talent in here, but certainly fits on the fact that he won the Cal Derby in his last, and he's going to get 2 turns. So to me, it's a balanced field. I like this field for a lot of different reasons. And I like maybe a small upset in here with Gervin, who's going to be a solid price on the board. But I'm very interested to see how Motown runs.
All right, well, thank you, Joel, and thank you guys for watching. Make sure you come back next week. We'll recap the Risen Star and see if we get any new shooters on the TCI Top 10.